Hi everybody, Chuck here with Jenkins Boat Works. Tonight I wanted to talk for a little bit about, could you build a boat? Should you build a boat? It's not for everybody, but it does offer some really great challenges and rewards. It's very satisfying work. So if you've thought about it, I'm going to try to give you a few ideas as to what you should consider, what you should think about, and then, of course, only you can make that decision as to whether or not it's something that you should try your hand at. I have had lots of questions from people throughout all the time that I built boats, whether it was my canoe or the kayak or anything else. And most of the time it's, oh my gosh, how much did that cost? Or how much time did you spend doing that? How do you know how to do that? And so those are kinds of questions that I thought maybe we could talk about for a few minutes. So it occurs to me there's basically about 4 things you should consider. And that would be, do you have the time, or can you make the time? Do you have the space? Do you have a place to do a project? 3 would be, do you have any skills? And 4, of course, would be, this does cost some money. Can you afford it? Time is definitely a consideration. People ask me, well, how long does it take to build a boat? And obviously the answer depends on the boat that you're building. This kayak, I did this in a summer, and it's a stitch and glue construction, and so it didn't take that much time. I spent, well, it was a wedding present, so I spent quite a bit of time on it, and it interrupted the Haven project, which is now getting into close to the end of year 4. I have a regular job in my insurance agency, so it's nights and weekends when I can carve out the time to do it. So it's something where you really do necessarily need to consider, do you have the time and or can you make the time? The next consideration would be space. As you can see here, this is the new shop, and we have created a wonderful space here. I built my canoe in the basement in my house. It's a walkout basement, so I was able to get it out of there. The Haven has taken over my 2-car garage, which is about 20 by 20, and it commands all the space in there, and it's cramped. This space is designed so that when I do retire from the insurance business, I can spend all my time working on and building boats. The next consideration would be skill. Certainly boat building and wooden boat building requires a certain amount of carpentry skill, and carpentry is something that I've been working on pretty much my whole life. As a little kid, I was banging boards together, building tree houses, and I've just always had a fascination and just a pure enjoyment factor out of carpentry. Here on the farm, I had built another barn about 20 years ago. I'd never done that before. It's about 24 by 36, and I'm still amazed at how well it went together and how well it has withstood the test of time. So certainly boat building is not barn building. It's much more complicated. You take something like the canoe here. These are all cedar strips that we ripped out of cedar boards with a circular or a table saw, and this is a kind of complicated construction. It's not as complicated as the Haven. I would say it's probably less complicated than the kayak that we were looking at a couple of minutes ago, which is a stitch and glue. So yeah, skills are an important consideration. In this day and age with YouTube, you can learn a lot. And The other thing I would say is that there is a community of boat building. You'll find different groups on Facebook, Instagram, where there are people out there. Right now there are people out there that are building boats, the same boat I'm building. There's a fellow that I know that's in Ireland, another in Rhode Island, another in Illinois, and that's just on a Haven, which I thought was a pretty uncommon boat. But we do seem to sort of gravitate together. So, in fact, I had a long discussion today with a fellow about where we're placing the Traveler on the transom on the Haven. And we had some confusion about it, but between the two of us, we figured it out. So that's actually pretty fun as far as being able to bounce ideas off of other builders and that sort of thing. So that would be what I'd have to say about learning the skills. The fourth consideration would have to be money. And certainly boat building is not a terribly inexpensive hobby. You can spend as much on it as you want, although there are ways to spend a relatively small amount of money. A lot of guys spend all their money going golfing. I just prefer to create beautiful craft. The cedar strip canoe that we were looking at a minute ago was built out of 6 16-foot cedar deck boards that I got from Lowe's, and those boards cost me just under $20 each. So for ripping out all the strips that I needed to build that, I was roughly $120. I had some fiberglass and epoxy costs and some other miscellaneous wood that went into it. But I would say that I was able to build that canoe for probably less than $500. I built it over a winter, but I was able to spread my costs out over several months. The Haven, we're going into year 4. I don't even know if I want to try to add up how much it's cost. It is not a cheap boat to build. There's a lot of really nice wood, mahogany, that sort of thing in it. But again, the beauty of it is I've been able to spread it out over a long period of time. So anyway, people have asked me, well, how much did that cost? And I honestly don't know. And like I said, I'd probably be terrified if I added it up. But the beauty of it is that you can spread it out over time. Maybe way back in the distance there, you might be able to see the box. This the sail right box. Those are the sails for the Haven. They are in a kit. I'm going to sew them. There's ways to save money. Had I gone and bought a ready-made set of sails for the Haven, I would have been $1,500, $1,600. The kit, yeah, I'm going to have to sew it, but there'll be a certain satisfaction in that too. The kit's going to cost me about, I believe it was $520. It was a lot to lay out all at once, but it was one of the biggest all-at-once expenditures that I've had. Most of the rest of it's been more nickel and dime type stuff, where it's, $30 here, $100 here, and then next month it's, something else more in tune with that. So, it just gets down to what do you want to do with your time and how do you want to spend your money, and certainly you can spend as much as you want to. I went through a whole big thing with the Haven about whether or not to put stainless steel hardware on, or if I should go ahead and put the bronze on it. And I was discussing it with another boat builder, and they said, "What, are you kidding? You've got all this time and energy and money in this thing so far. Don't cheap out now. That's the boat jewelry." And so I've spent a fair amount of money on bronze, but I'm not sorry. It's going to be wonderful. And so anyway, obviously something that you got to think about. Well, so in conclusion, I hope that I've given you some thoughts and ideas to consider, and that maybe it's enough for you to go ahead and make the decision to get started on something. And I would say that probably getting started is the trickiest part. Buy the book Canoe Craft. It's got plans in it. It's where I got the plans for my canoe. Buy plans from Wooden Boat. We can't all be Leo Golden, or we can't be Alex and Steven from Acorn to Arabello, but you can build a small skiff or a canoe or a kayak, or maybe even something larger like the Haven. But I hope that you'll feel free to reach out. I am wildly available and most interested in helping anybody else that's interested in getting into boat building. There's a great satisfaction in it, and it can be a great satisfaction for you as well. So, you know, buy the plans, go to the lumber yard and buy some boards. The trickiest part's getting started. So anyway, I would also invite you to join our YouTube channel. It has grown significantly, especially recently. The Cedar Strip Canoe is a whole series on the channel. The Stitch and Glue Double Duck Kayak that we looked at earlier, Chesapeake Lightcraft, that's got its own series. And comment below if you want to interact. Hit the subscribe button. Click on the little bell and get notifications when the next video is coming out. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the water. All right, till next time. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.